Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session. So, my name's Uma, and I'm going to be your host for today. And this is the 18th episode of the Wisdom Talks with Think Geetha. And we are delving into a different topic each week, which explores how we can combine the ancient Vedic wisdom of spiritual topics in our daily lives, which is amazing. And in today's episode, we're embracing the vibrant energy of spring and exploring the profound wisdom of Ayurveda with our esteemed guest, Niti. And as the days are growing longer and nature is awakening from winter, I feel like we're all in this kind of season of rejuvenation and renewal. And Ayurveda is the ancient Indian science of life, and it offers a profound insight into aligning with the rhythms of nature to cultivate our optimal health and well-being. So Niti Sheth, who some of you may already know, is an Ayurvedic educator with a wealth of knowledge and experience in this time-honored tradition. And with her deep understanding of Ayurvedic principles and practical wisdom, Niti today is going to be guiding us through some unique considerations for wellness during this time period of spring, according to Ayurveda. So welcome, Niti. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Uma.
How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. And how about you?
I'm feeling great. I'm excited for what you have to say today.
Hopefully, hopefully it's of value and you guys can, take away something that's useful and applicable. So,
Amazing. So, something to get us started is could you tell me a little bit about your journey to Ayurveda, how you came about it, and yeah, from the
okay,
beginning?
sure. Before I begin, I'm just going to say two prayers. One, some of you may know, it's just honoring the previous teachers that we have, and another one is specifically for Ayurveda. So I'm just going to recite them in Sanskrit, and you can just hear the vibrations. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namami Dhanvantari Devam Surasurairvandita Pada Padmam Loke Jararubhaya Mrityunasham Dhataramisham Vividhoshadinam. So also last time I did this, somebody asked me a very good question at the beginning. I think it was Sajjan. What does that second verse mean? So the first verse is honoring our previous teachers and thanking them for knowledge. The knowledge, which is like a torchlight, which has opened our darkened eyes. And the second verse specifically is I am bowing down and I am offering my respects to the god of medicine, Dhanvantari, because he's brought this amazing power and knowledge of Ayurveda, this branch of medicine which is able to provide healing to everyone, to the demigods and the demons alike. So a lot of Ayurvedic physicians, practitioners, therapists, educators, they'll often recite this verse because any of the Vedic sciences, it's not my knowledge. I'm an instrument, sort of passing this knowledge on to other people. So it's very important, whatever branch of the Vedas that you practice, that you delve into, that you want to pursue, always remember it's not your knowledge, it's not your words, you're just an instrument passing it on. But you asked me how I got into Ayurveda. So I had a pretty generic upbringing. I grew up in Australia. I'm Gujarati. So, we had lots of Indian food, and unknowingly, I think my mum would tell us certain things of eat this when you're sick or don't eat that. She probably didn't know it's stemming from Ayurveda, but as I grew up, I realized actually all of that stuff made sense. In university, I did nutrition and media and communication because I wanted to know what to say to people. I love food, I love eating. So I wanted to tell people the best food to eat, but I also wanted to know how to say it. So that's where the media and communication came in. And then in my final year, I sat in on a lecture on Ayurvedic nutrition and everything just made sense. It was very relatable, very practical, and very logical. I didn't have to think hard about it. And I thought I needed to study this for myself a little bit further. So I went on to India and I studied for 3 months at a traditional Ayurvedic hospital in South India. And then I came back to Australia and I found a job in an Ayurvedic health clinic and quickly became a therapist, treating all sorts of people. I did a lot of workshops, wrote articles, newsletters, things like that. And then I moved to not America, to England about 7 years ago. And that's when I started my own Ayurvedic clinic where I do massage, but I also share lots of Ayurvedic tips on social media. So I guess that's my journey.
Amazing. And you shared something about studying nutrition.
Mhm.
So I'm guessing that was more Western nutrition. Is that correct?
Yes, that was
Mm.
Western nutrition.
Amazing. So what would you say, was there any similarities between the two, as you've learned kind of both?
Uh, for me, actually, it was the differences that stood out. I found that Western nutrition was very detail based. You have to remember, you have to learn the detail first and then apply it to different situations. And there's a lot to remember. So for example, you have to learn how many carbohydrates, how much protein, how much vitamin A, C, that different groups of people need to have. So a woman that's 65 would need to have different amounts to a man that's 35. And it was, you had to remember a lot of things. Whereas in Ayurveda, once you understand the basic concepts about the energies are in the world, the three doshas, how they function, you can relate that to any situation. You can relate that to any person. You can relate that to any time of life, to any season, any part of the day. And you know where to apply the knowledge. It's like with a cook. If you know how to make a base cake, you know how much sugar, you know how much butter, flour, all of those essentials, you can then customize it based on, the flavor, what someone wants. You can make it an orange cake, you can make it a chocolate cake. So in the same way in Ayurveda, once you know those basic principles, you can easily use that to apply to sort of any scenario.
Amazing. And you briefly spoke about the three doshas. So do you mind going into a little bit of an understanding of what they are?
Okay, be very, very brief because the three
Brief.
doshas can go on for a long time. But in the environment around us, we all know about the five elements: earth, water, fire, and ether. And what the sages, the traditional sages of Ayurveda, they had recognized is those five elements can be grouped into three different energies: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So the energy of Vata is a combination of air and ether, and it's responsible for movement. So if you think of movement outside, you think of movement inside your body, it's all governed by Vata. And Vata is considered the king of doshas because without Vata, the other two can't move. It's not to say that Vata is better than the others, but Vata is the only one capable of moving other things along. Then you've got the energy of Pitta, which is a combination of fire and water. And it's responsible for all types of transformation. So you think about transformative processes happening in the body: digestion, metabolism, not just in your stomach, but also in your mind. When you see something, your mind is digesting it, it's making sense of it, and it's creating understanding, awareness. That is Pitta. Then you have the energy of Kapha, which is a combination of earth and water. It's a very heavy energy. It's responsible for stability, grounding, nourishment, again, inside and outside the body. So when you start to recognize the qualities that make up these three different energies, you can start to see them everywhere in life. So most people, when they come across Ayurveda, the three doshas, the three energies, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, is always what stands out. But when you do a little bit more research into Ayurveda, there's something called the 20 qualities and the 10 pairs of opposites. And they're simple words that you can use to describe everything. So it's like dry, wet, rough, smooth, hot, cold. So each dosha, each energy has a set of qualities ascribed to it. So rather than trying to see something and figure out, okay, is that Vata, is that Pitta, is that Kapha? When you understand the qualities that make up or that describe that energy. So Vata, anything that is Vata is characteristically dry, it's light, it's cold, it's mobile, capacity to move, it's subtle. So when you look in to the environment and, for example, you eat a cracker, crackers and cheese. You eat a cracker. A cracker is dry, it's rough, it's cold. These are the qualities of vata. So when you eat a cracker, you're increasing that quality of vata inside you. In the same way, pitta has different qualities ascribed to it, and kapha has different qualities ascribed to it. So when you understand those qualities, because they're words that we can relate to, they're basically very basic adjectives describing words, and we can then start to see them around us. We can see them inside of us, and then we know how to deal with things.
Amazing. So in terms of thinking about that, so our topic today is spring.
Mhm.
And so just to start off with, how would you describe the spring season in terms of Ayurveda?
So, Ayurveda is, when you understand some of those concepts, it's like a beautiful description of what happens. So in winter, we understand that it's obviously cold. There's also this dampness, this heaviness, this stagnant energy in the air. You think of what's happening in nature in winter. Everything's dormant. Animals are in hibernation. Plants don't grow. They shed their leaves. And it's reflected in our society and what we do. We sort of retreat inwards. We chill out. We take a break. So all that dormancy of winter is now starting to warm up, and it's starting to become active in spring. So as the sun starts to warm the external environment, it also warms our internal environment. You can see what's happening in spring. Flowers are blooming. You see the daffodils, the tulips, everything's coming up. It's a sign of growth. It's a sign of emergence. So in terms of what you want to do, how you can learn from what nature is telling you, start new things in spring. People talk about spring cleaning. It's not just a marketing gimmick. There's merit to it. We want to clear out whatever's been stagnant in winter to make way for spring, to make way for summer. Do a spring clean. Any new projects at work you want to start, go for it. If you want to start a new way of eating, a diet, or a fitness regime, start it now. It's a really, really good time. So we see this growth happening around us in spring. The other thing is we'll see a predominance of lots of colds and flus at this time. You notice a lot of people will complain of seasonal allergies, getting sick. So what's happening is, as the sun heat warms up everything outside, it starts to melt. And inside our body, it also starts to melt. And all of those comfort foods that we've been eating in winter, mac and cheese, pasta, you think of what you have at winter, it's comforting and heavy food. That's also starting to melt. And the types of foods that we were eating in winter were kapha predominant. They were very heavy in those earthy and water qualities. So now that's starting to melt in your body, and it's coming out as colds and flus, as runny noses, as a lot of mucus in your body. So springtime is also the best time to do a bit of a cleanse. If you want to help prepare yourself for the incoming season, do a bit of a detox, a bit of a cleanse, and you can make it as intense or as gentle as you want, but basically simplify your eating. Eat simple foods, eat foods that you're used to, traditional foods, retreat a little bit inwards, get movement, exercise, and just help your body shed off that excess kapha in preparation for spring. The other thing about spring and this time in between seasons is you can probably notice now, sometimes we have quite warm days, sometimes they're a little bit cold. Your body doesn't know what it's doing. So that's why Ayurveda even suggests that the time in between seasons, it's called Ritu Sandhi. Ritu means season, and Sandhi means the joining. So that joining period, because the weather, there's lots of fluctuations in the weather, your body can become vulnerable. You don't know what diet and lifestyle factors to adopt because it's a bit confusing. And so there's an increased tendency for you to get sick. So to avoid that and to make your body and your immune system stronger, Ayurveda will suggest doing a little bit of a cleanse to better prepare yourself for that season. So I guess some takeaways for spring is start something new. If you've been, waiting for the right time to start something new, get more movement into your regime in any type of exercise, make it a little bit more vigorous. and do a little bit of a cleanse or a detox to help prepare yourself for the next season.
Amazing. So in terms of detox, what would you suggest that we eat, or what kind of foods count as detoxifying foods or drinks?
Anything that is easy for your body to digest. And again, everybody is different. So Ayurveda is a very individualistic science. But if I were to give you some tips, I guess that would suit everybody, what can I say? Focus on cooked and whole vegetables, whole grains, whole lentils. Try to avoid processed foods. Try to avoid as many sort of canned, pre-packaged, pre-made foods. Cook everything at home. Eat a little bit less. We think that, I have this phenomenon called my eyes are bigger than my stomach. So I will put so much on my plate thinking that I can finish it all, but in reality, that's not going to happen. So just eat a little bit less. My grandmother always says that if you're hungry for 3 chapatis, eat 2, because we overthink how much that we need. Drink lots of warm herbal teas, and yeah, that's what I would suggest. There's no magic pill, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely no magic pill. You mentioned something really interesting earlier, that you lived in Australia before, and obviously the seasons there are different. So yeah, so I'm guessing you do this the other way around then?
As in, if I was in Australia, I would be preparing,
Oh yeah, yeah.
it would be autumn. So
Okay,
then I would be preparing to go into a winter regime. But because I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, I prepare to go into sort of a warmer weather.
amazing. So in terms of the shift in potentially daily routine from
Mhm.
winter to spring, what would you suggest in a kind of Ayurvedic way that people should shift in their daily routines or change around?
So in terms of number one, I would say is listen to nature. Look at what's happening around you. The days are longer. Get up a little bit earlier. It's okay to stay up a little bit later, sort of, mimic this hours of sunlight. I like to think that the sun being out for longer periods of the day, it's telling us go outside, utilize that time where we don't need to rely on artificial light. Go out for a walk after dinner, plan your social activities outdoors. Get digging in the garden. In terms of your food, you want to start lightening up what you eat. So in winter, we favored like lots of root vegetables, heavy grains like wheat. We had lots of cheese and things like that in our diet. Start to slowly lighten it, have more spring greens. Change up your grains from wheat to things like barley, quinoa, amaranth. Avoid dairy, especially cheese, yogurt, and ice cream, because those things can tend to increase the mucus in your body. Start to do a little bit more vigorous exercise, you'll feel more like it as well. When it starts to become spring, when you see the daffodils out, when you see the tulips growing, everyone's happier. You can just tell when you go out for a walk, people will say hello to you. And yeah, so embrace that little burst of energy and growth.
Amazing. And do you have any specific self-care tips for spring as well?
One thing that's nice to do is, so as part of a daily routine, is something called dry brushing or garshana. And you can do that. You can get like an exfoliating glove or an exfoliating brush. And before your shower, just gently massage your skin to help, again, take some of that stagnant energy, that's been accumulated in winter, just to help shift it. So on your limbs, you always want to go up and down, and any joints of the body like elbows, shoulders, knees, you always want to use a circular motion. And then on your abdomen, always in a clockwise manner, because that's the way that your colon and your bowels move out of the body. So yeah, get a dry brush and just very gently exfoliate your body before you have a shower.
Amazing. So in terms of people who have quite busy daily routines, daily lives, they're working, how would you suggest incorporating Ayurvedic routines? Because kind of might sound like it's quite a big thing to kind of prepare meals, or what do you suggest for that?
So, I mean, everybody is different, but pick one thing that sort of sticks out to you within Ayurveda. If it's if the idea of doing a little bit more vigorous exercise appeals to you and you think you'll really benefit from it, just pick that one thing and stick to it, and stick to it in a consistent way, because that's the only time you're going to see results. You can't do it one day and then expect to be healed, for the rest of the week. You have to do it every single day. Pick one thing and do that, and make the habit so small that you can't even notice it. There was an article many, many years ago by the Huffington Post where they talked about micro steps. And, around New Year's time, everybody always they make amazing resolutions that I'm going to go to the gym and work out for half an hour every day. But they suggested make your resolution so small that you don't even notice it. So, for example, one man's resolution was, I'm going to go to the gym every day. He never said, I'm going to do a workout. He said, I'm going to go to the gym. So every day he would just go to the gym, walk in, walk back out, and come home. And then after a week, he was like, I'm already at the gym. Let me just work out for 5 minutes. So he did that. A week later, he was like, okay, I'm doing 5 minutes. Let me do 10 minutes. And then without realizing, in a month or 2 months' time, he was doing a half an hour workout. But basically, whatever change you want to implement in your life, make it so small that you hardly notice it, but do it every single day. And take stock of your life. For example, if you don't have the time to cook and you have a really, really busy work schedule, start small. If you are somebody that eats takeaway 5 nights a week, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. Pick one night. Maybe on Sunday night, you're going to make dinner for Sunday and Monday. Do that for a month. Once you've got the hang of that, okay, how can I do it so I'm cooking a fresh dinner on Wednesday? Maybe you chop up the vegetables on a Tuesday. Maybe you meal plan, you soak your lentils, whatever it is. There's this phenomenon called the stretch zone. There's the comfort zone, the stretch zone, and the stress zone. When you're in the comfort zone, you don't need to do anything. It's great. In the stretch zone, you're being pulled a little bit, but you know that pulling is good for you. Like if you're going to a yoga class, it hurts a little bit, but you know that that's for my own good. But then the stress zone is you're being pulled too much. We want to be in the stretch zone in any field of life, in any sort of sector. If you want to progress, if you want to make good changes in your life, whether it's health, whether it's your spirituality, whether it's your professional life, you need to push yourself a little bit. So push yourself a little bit, but not too much. So yeah, just take stock of your life, see where you really need the help. Pick one thing from Ayurveda, whether it's the food, whether it's the how you eat. Maybe you're used to eating with your phone or while watching something. Stop doing that. Eat mindfully. Eat without doing anything. Maybe you really struggle with exercise. Something simple, go for, I don't know, get off at the previous station. Walk a little bit extra on your way home.
That's a good idea.
Park the car a little bit further away from the shopping center, so you have to walk that little bit more. We all know everything, but we don't do it. And I'm culprit to that as well. In Ayurveda, they say one of the 3 causes of disease, the first one is called prajna aparadha. That means you are committing a crime against your intellect. Your body naturally knows what to do. I know I shouldn't have eaten that bar of chocolate, but I did it anyway. But the more we start misusing our body's natural intelligence, we then corrupt it into getting the wrong sorts of cravings. So yeah, we know what to do. We just have to do it.
Amazing. Do you mind sharing a few Ayurvedic recipes maybe, or kind of tips, dietary tips? Maybe not recipes.
Yeah, recipes would be a bit hard.
Yeah.
I'll do a shameless plug and tell you to go to my Instagram because there's lots of recipes up
I
there.
have seen an amazing one for ramen,
Yeah.
which everyone should go and look at.
So you can find lots of recipes there. But dietary tips. Ooh. More than a dietary tip, I would say listen to and understand your digestion. We, everything that we need to know to be healthy, we already know it. Our body it's within us, but we don't listen to our body enough. So listen to your digestion. Don't think that what works for one person, for your neighbor, for your sister, for your husband, for your wife, will work for you.
Okay.
So see how you feel after you eat certain things. Does it make you feel bloated? Keep a food diary, for a week. See how you feel. You ate breakfast. How did you feel? This is what you ate for lunch. How did you feel? And then you get a better idea of, okay, what works for me? Generally in Ayurveda, so these are some, I think, overall rules that apply for everyone. Cooked foods is easier to digest, and it's better for it's better for you. You'll feel less bloated, less heavy, less lethargic. Learn to befriend spices. And by spices, I don't mean you have to make Indian food all the time. You can make so many different cuisines. All of them have a variety of spices, but learn to include spices in your cooking. And that doesn't mean chili. Chili just makes things spicy. But, cumin, coriander, fennel, turmeric, ginger, black pepper, so many different spices, and they all have different medicinal properties. Don't overcomplicate your meals. So sometimes we think that I want to make something really healthy. This is a big phenomenon. I find a lot of Indians do this. There's this thing called multi-grain atta. And so it's like an atta with like 10 different types of grains and this flour and that flour. And they're like, yeah, I eat multi-grain chapatis and I'm so healthy. What happens is it's confusing to your body. If you look at a very traditional diet in any part of the world, it's very simple. It'll be like one grain, one protein source, which is a lentil, and maybe a couple of different vegetables. But in our head, we think the more healthy foods I take at one time, the better it is for my body. But your digestion, it's like this machine that's trying to sort out everything you eat. And if you just shove some superfood chapati in your belly, it's like, okay, I've got soya flour, I've got sorghum flour, I've got pearl millet flour, I've got wheat flour. And they all take different times to digest. It can be overwhelming for your digestion. So whatever your meal is, keep it simple. Look back to your traditional diet, from what your ancestors were eating 50 to 100 years ago. How can you sort of go back to that? So eat cooked foods, well spiced, don't overcomplicate your meals, and listen to your appetite. Eat when you're hungry. Most of the time we eat because it's a meal time. Oh, it's 7:30. I better eat breakfast before I head out the door. I better have my lunch at 11:30 because I know I'm not going to have time for the rest of the day. I'm going to eat because that food looks good. But ask yourself, are you really hungry from within? And then eat. And so people then get confused because, oh, today I was hungry at 9, tomorrow I'm hungry at 11. It changes. But our bodies, they work in a rhythm. They work according to the circadian rhythm, according to how the sun rises and sets. And so does our digestion. So if we eat timely meals, our digestion will learn, okay, she eats her breakfast at 8:30. So, and if you've been doing that for a couple of weeks, at 8 o'clock, your digestive juices will start flowing because your body knows that's what it's to expect. So to help reset your digestion and, eat when you're hungry, eat in a timely fashion. Try to make lunch your biggest meal of the day because your digestive fire, it moves in sync with the sun. And when is the sun at its peak?
Midday
at noon. And that's when your digestive fire is at its peak, and use that to your advantage. Have your biggest meal of the day at lunch. We have got it all wrong, and we try to have our biggest meal at dinner. And I completely understand that maybe that's the time when families are together. That's the only chance you get to sit down with everybody and eat a meal. But there's so many different things that you can do to, maybe you just have a small portion of dinner at that time. Have a bigger lunch. You can still sit down with your family, enjoy the time with them, eat a little bit less than you would normally. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you have a vegetable, a grain, and a lentil or a protein source for your dinner, maybe you avoid the grain and you just have the vegetable and the protein source. It's a little bit lighter and easier for you to digest.
That's a good idea. One last quick question about nutrition. What is your opinion on sugar, sweet things in terms of Ayurvedic diet?
Look, nothing in this world is universally good or universally bad. Modern media loves to glamorize or demonize things.
Mm-hmm.
So what you said about sugar, people will be like, oh yeah, avoid sugar, don't eat sugar. No, sugar has its purpose, has its place. It has its role in our body. So in Ayurveda, complete nutrition is seen as having the 6 tastes every day. And the 6 tastes are sweet, salty, bitter, pungent, sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent, right? So we need the sweet taste. The problem is we eat it too much. And then when you then look at processed foods, most processed foods will have something sweet, have some form of sugar or sweetener in them. But if you have control over what you eat, and the best way to have control over what you put into your mouth is to cook it yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when you cook your foods, you know what you're putting sugar into. Sugar is not bad. It has its role in our body, in our mind. So don't cut it out. Just
Amazing.
see how much you're eating and what source of sugar that you're eating.
Sounds really good. Great advice.
Ayurveda is very practical, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just eat this, don't eat that. It's very, very basic and common sense. And all of the stuff that I've said, you've probably heard it before and you're like, it's nothing new, but that's the truth. We've
Mm-hmm.
just forgotten that and we have to try and bring it back.
Definitely, it's hard to remember these things and put them into practice day to day. But yeah, so how would you say Ayurveda addresses our mental and emotional health and well-being during the spring season?
So we've just come out of winter, which it can be hard for many people. You can see people get more depressed in winter because there's less sunlight. We go outside less. How does it? Okay, I don't know if there's a direct correlation between mental health and spring,
Mm-hmm.
but as I said before, you'll start to feel that lightness, that brightness that's permeating the environment in your body and mind. So embrace it. And, you know, whatever that you've been going through in winter, reflect, process it in a healthy way, and then move forward. And just like we don't wear the same clothes all year round, we shouldn't eat and live in the same way all year round.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think that, you know, if you're having your smoothies in summer, you can have your smoothies in winter. No, have something warm, have something nourishing in winter. And then as it starts to get warmer and spring starts to hit, okay, how can I change my diet? Shop at your local farmers markets. Look at, if you don't have a farmers market near you, look at what's on sale in the supermarket, what's in abundance. That's generally what is in season. It's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit hard because we get everything all year round. But, you know, even have a quick Google, seasonal vegetables in spring in the UK, and try to include more of that in your diet. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Amazing. So as an Ayurvedic practitioner, how would you view the connection between spirituality and our overall well-being?
So Ayurveda is not a spiritual science.
Okay.
Ayurveda is what's called an Upaveda. It's a Veda that is there to help your body and mind. Whereas spirituality is about we're transcending this body.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that being said, when you practice Ayurveda, you you facilitate a more conducive body and mind to practice spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're healthier, because your mind is more stable, it's easier to be spiritual because spirituality is all about our mind,
Mm-hmm.
you know, how we are with everybody else. if you're lying there sick and, you know, you can't focus on things, you're not going to be able to commit to your spiritual practices or do them with attention and focus. But if you have balanced body and mind, then it's easier to, I guess, work on nourishing the soul. So don't view Ayurveda as sort of the end goal, but it's the means to your goal, which is a little bit more spiritual. You know, there'll be things in Ayurveda, people have asked me, is there meat in Ayurveda? Yes. There's a whole chapter in the Ayurvedic text on meat of different animals.
Wow.
But Ayurveda was written, you know, thousands of years ago in India. There were a group of people that they needed that. That was their sustenance. And so there's a particular way in which to do that. But now our bodies don't require that. But again, Ayurveda is, it's there to facilitate, I guess, a balanced body and mind so that we can then dedicate ourselves to our spiritual practice.
Okay, amazing. So would you say there's a correlation between the Ayurvedic principles and meditation and mindfulness?
Yeah, I mean, Ayurveda, when you follow the principles of Ayurveda, you'll have a healthy body and mind, and then it will be easier for you to meditate, to be more mindful in every single activity that you're doing. You know, when you live in accordance with the environment, the seasons around you, when you listen to your body, when you do what works for you and avoid what doesn't work for you, you'll just be a healthier person, and it'll be easier for you to focus on your mindfulness and meditation practices.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for this. I think we might have some questions
No
in
worries. Happy to answer whatever I can.
in the Q&A. If anyone hasn't
Oh,
already,
yes, I see it.
yeah, if anyone hasn't already asked their questions in the Q&A box, this is your chance to do so.
Okay, so I will answer questions that are not personal medical questions, just because it's beyond the scope of what I do. And it's a very, yeah, you can't do it over the Zoom call with lots of people. Do I have Ayurvedic medicines for ADHD children? So in terms of medicine and Ayurveda, I will say one thing, that there's a big growth of Ayurvedic herbs becoming really popular. Things like ashwagandha, shatavari, brahmi, people are selling them in capsules or in powder form and urging you to take it. But Ayurvedic medication should always be prescribed. One man's food is another man's poison. So please, if you see, or if you might be taking shatavari, you might be taking ashwagandha, brahmi, whatever it is, try and seek out the advice of an Ayurvedic doctor or practitioner, and see if that's what works for you. Different herbs also have different vehicles of transmission. Somebody might be better off taking ashwagandha with honey. Somebody else might be better off taking ashwagandha with milk. But because Ayurvedic pharmacology and the Ayurvedic pharmaceutical industry, they're allowed to just, give out herbs left, right, and center, people think that it's okay to take them left, right, and center. Just like in modern medicine, you need to be prescribed your medication by the doctor. They'll tell you the particular dosage to take, and then you take it, and it's for you. In Ayurveda, it's the same thing. So before you reach for any Ayurvedic medication, please, please, please seek the advice of a doctor or practitioner to see whether it suits you. So yet same thing for Ayurvedic medicines for ADHD. I would recommend you please go see a doctor or practitioner. Okay. Ayurveda is a very beautiful practice, but sometimes it's very difficult to practice every day in our life. How can we integrate Ayurveda in our daily routine when we have less time? Some practical tips. One practical tip, go follow my Instagram page, because that is what I share. That is what I'm not just saying it as a, to boost my following. My aim in life is to help people relate to Ayurveda and make it more practical. I don't want you to think, oh my God, Ayurveda has a 2-hour morning routine, I'm never going to do it. I don't do it all. Do what works for you. If you're someone that has achy joints, has a history of arthritis in your body, in your family, and you really suffer with stiff joints, maybe you incorporate the practice of Abhyanga, which is a self-massage. And every day you commit to just massaging a different part of your body, but that's your one thing. For you, maybe it's your digestion. You really struggle with bloating, and you pick one thing from Ayurveda, like making CCF tea, coriander, cumin, and fennel tea. And every day without fail, that's one thing that you have. So figure out yourself. The problem is we rarely look inwards. Take that time out to look inwards. Look at your body. Give your body a physical review. How am I feeling in my mind? How am I feeling in my digestion, in my skin, in my energy, in my joints, in my muscles, everywhere? Give yourself a little score. What is it that needs the most attention? And then you can be like, okay, I really need to work on my skin. It's so dry. What can I do? You can start to oil yourself. You can start to make sure you're having enough hydration, not just water, but enough healthy fats and oils in your diet. So just like you have a review at work, what are they called? Appraisals, your boss performance review. Your boss calls you in and sees how you're doing. You should call yourself in every month. How am I doing physically? How am I doing mentally? How am I doing emotionally? How am I doing spiritually? And check in with yourself, and then you know what to do to improve yourself. Okay, don't eat yogurt because it's mucus forming, but I understand yogurt is cooling, so it would not be suitable for warmer weather. Okay, myth busting time. Yogurt is not cooling. Yogurt is a heating substance. So milk is fermented to create yogurt, right? And anything fermented, it undergoes this active transformation process. Therefore, there is more heat in it. So any fermented foods, you eat dosa, idli, they're fermented. You eat sauerkraut, you eat kimchi, you eat kefir, you eat yogurt. They are all fermented foods. Because of that fermentation process, there's more heat generated in that. So then it will become heating, and it should be avoided if it's a hot season. If you've got a lot of heat in your body, cut them out. Will it not be better to avoid refined sugar? Of course, if you can avoid refined sugar, avoid it, but don't cut out sugar completely. Have jaggery, like the next person said. Yes, jaggery is better than white or brown sugar. Have honey, have maple syrup, but have it in moderation. Yeah.
I'll ask a question. Someone's asked, how can we incorporate more protein in a vegetarian diet?
Okay, so again, Ayurveda doesn't look at, we have to almost unlearn what we know about health to relearn Ayurveda. So the way I explain things to people is, when you are coming into Ayurveda, put on a new set of glasses. We can't impose our Western view of nutrition, of proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and everything, and impose that point of view on Ayurveda and think, but it doesn't match up, therefore it's not right. Ayurveda just looks at the world from a different point of view. So again, those 6 tastes, if you have them in the right proportion every day, sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, astringent, you have a complete diet. It doesn't look at protein, how much, how many grams of protein are you having a day? So I don't want to sound like I'm avoiding the question, but yeah, look at Ayurveda as another way of looking at the world.
Amazing. Another question we have is, how can premenopause or menopause be managed in spring according to Ayurveda? Is that a medical or?
Yeah, perimenopause or menopause, there won't be anything specifically for spring, but it's whole separate category. And again, everybody is different that's going through peri or menopause. Everybody has different symptoms. One thing I will say, it's not meant to be a bad phase of life. Modern health sort of publicizes menopause as you're going to get hot flushes, you're going to get irritable, you're going to be moody, and like we dread menopause coming. Menopause is a phase of life. It happens to every woman. And if we are balanced, if we are in a state of good health, it's not a bad thing. We won't get all of those negative symptoms. So, at the risk of sounding like a broken record, seek the advice of an Ayurvedic doctor or a practitioner. We can't go to Google to answer all of our questions. If we want to succeed in any area of life, we get a coach. You know, if we want to be better at sports, we invest in a coach. If we want to be better at music, art, business, we invest in a mentor or a teacher. In the same way, be proactive about your health. Don't wait until it's bad. The people go to Ayurveda when they have exhausted all other options.
Amazing.
Don't do that.
A few people are asking about Ayurvedic practitioners in the UK. Just to confirm, are you an Ayurvedic practitioner?
No, I don't see people one-on-one. I'm an Ayurvedic therapist and educator. What I can do is I have on my Instagram profile, in one of the highlights, I have a whole list of Ayurvedic doctors and practitioners that practice. Some of them are local to the UK, some of them are around the world. Is there another way you can communicate this information to everyone in this group, like at a later stage? Is there an
Yeah, we
email or a
can do that
WhatsApp or something?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And we can definitely tag your Instagram as well. Um,
Yeah,
just so everyone has it and everyone can go to there to reference the information. We'll do that as well.
yeah. Or what I can do is I can put together a list of Ayurvedic doctors and practitioners specifically in the UK, and you can kind of send them out to everybody on this call if that's a possibility, so that you have that as a reference point.
Amazing. We'll do that. Um, Someone has asked, what is your opinion on what the best meal for breakfast is? Should they have sweet or salty? And linking to that question, it's a totally different question, but from the same person. What is your opinion and how many liters of water we should be having a day according to Ayurveda, not Western?
Okay, with the water one, so I asked this to my Ayurvedic doctor, the one that was teaching me in South India. I said, you know, how much water should we have a day? How many meals should we have a day? And he said, drink when you're thirsty.
Interesting.
Right? We think that I have to have 2 liters of water a day. I have to have this. Obviously, drink an adequate amount of water, but drink when you're thirsty. Listen to your body. In terms of breakfast, you can have either sweet or salty. Yeah, there's no right or wrong way to have it. You can include all of the 6 tastes. And when I say include the 6 tastes in a meal, it's possible to have all 6 tastes in one meal. So for example, sweet isn't just sugar. Sweet potatoes are also sweet. Potatoes are sweet. Rice is sweet. Milk is sweet. So you get the sweet taste from there. Salty obviously mainly comes from salt. Sour, you get many souring agents, citrus, kokum, what else? Oh, it's escaping me now. And then astringent is that puckering taste. So it's like turmeric root is astringent. Green bananas. A lot of people from Africa, they'll have like green bananas. Matoki, I think it's called. That is astringent. Pomegranate is astringent. And then bitter and pungent. Bitter, you have bitter gourd, leafy greens like kale, rocket, astringent. A lot of legumes also have this astringent taste. And then pungent, most spices would be pungent. Pungent is like a spicy cumin, fennel, not fennel, fennel's more sweet. Black pepper, ginger. Yeah. But for breakfast, either sweet or salty.
Amazing. Maybe this will be something you want to do with the practitioners as well, but somebody's asked if you could recommend any books on Ayurveda.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, if you maybe at the end, people that want the names of practitioners and books, just hang around at the end and I can kind of like tell you some.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Um, okay. Interesting question. I think this is probably raised on the point that you said about meat being in
Mhm.
the Ayurvedic diet potentially. Someone said, should we eat meat then? Is that kind of something? It's probably not something you suggest, but
So
is that
no, I'm a lifelong vegetarian, and I will always say we don't need meat. The reason also I don't eat meat is I want to pursue a spiritual path, a spiritual lifestyle. And to aid me in that, I need all the help I can get. And meat has a very heavy energy. In the Bhagavad-gita, it talks about the three different modes of sattva, rajas, and tamas. And to sattva is the mode of goodness. It fosters purity, contentment, spirituality. Rajas is the mode of passion. It's about action, transformation, stimulating. And what is it? Tamas is the, excuse me, mode of ignorance. Ignorance. It's a very heavy, dark, inactive mode. So when you want to pursue a spiritual life, you want to eat and do things that are in the mode of goodness, in the mode of sattva. Something like meat. It is the flesh of a dead animal. It is in the mode of ignorance. So when you eat foods like that, you are inviting that mode of ignorance in your body and mind. And then therefore, well, for me, because I want to try and pursue a more spiritual path, I avoid it. And I recommend everybody avoid it. And I don't want to sit here and argue the case for vegetarianism, but there's many arguments against it. But Ayurveda, just because it was written, there's a chapter on meats, that's not a license for everybody to then go and eat meat. Look at your lifestyle, look at what you do. Ayurveda probably recommended meat for hunters and gatherers, for people that were like, out in the forest all day and they had different physical requirements. We sit at a computer for 8 hours a day. We have very, very minimal physical requirements. So no, don't eat meat.
I agree. Um, I think a lot of the questions here are quite personally related medical questions. So again, you'll probably want to be sticking around for the Ayurvedic practitioner list as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll wrap it up for questions today. Thank you
Okay,
so
I saw one question,
much.
a good one. What does Ayurveda say about vitamins, supplements? Should we take multivitamins or do we get everything from our diet? We get everything from our diet if we eat well. Some supplements, like in England, vitamin D you need because we don't get enough sunlight. But generally, if you have a good diet, you'll get everything that you need. And again, it's taking the Western medical glasses off and putting on Ayurvedic glasses. Ayurvedic glasses won't say, are you getting enough vitamin A, B, C, D, E? It will say, are you getting the 6 tastes? And in that way, you're going to be nourished. Are you in actually something that I missed in Ayurveda, digestion is everything. You can be eating the healthiest meal. It can be grown in your garden. It can be, super seasonal, local. But if your body can't break it down, it's of no use to you. So first, look at your digestion. Everything that you eat, are you digesting it properly? And how do you know if you're digesting it properly? You move your bowels at least once a day. You have an appetite to eat. You're hungry from your stomach, not because you're meant to eat. After you eat, you feel energetic, you have a clear mind, and you feel satisfied. You have a very minimal coating on your tongue. If you burp, it doesn't taste like the previous meal. If you fart, it doesn't smell. These are the signs of having good digestion. Having bad digestion means you don't move your bowels every day. You could be constipated. You might move your bowels more than 3 times a day. That's also poor digestion. You don't have a real hunger from within your stomach. It's a very weak appetite. You feel foggy-headed, lethargic, and super bloated and unsatisfied after you eat. Your breath smells, your fart smell. All of these are signs of poor digestion. So number 1, look at your digestion. If you have good digestion, then anything healthy you eat will be of value to you.
Amazing. Is there any other questions you kind of wanted to answer in?
Mm. Okay. How to consult an Ayurvedic doctor online if they have to check our three doshas, isn't it through pulse? So in Ayurveda, they are 3 and then 10 or 8 eightfold method of examination. So the three sort of broad ways to examine someone. One is prashna, which means questioning. So they will ask you a lot about yourself, your history, your life. The other one is sparshna, so touch. So it's not just pulse diagnosis, but it could also be touching different parts of your body to see what's going on. And the other one is darshna, which means examination. So they will see you. They'll see you the moment you walk in the room. How are you walking? How are you reacting? They can get some understanding. Ayurvedic examination can also happen through an eightfold method. It's called Ashtavidhi Pariksha. So they look at pulse is one of them. Then they look at, ask you about your stool, urine. They look at your voice, your nails, and I think your eyes. There's a couple of other methods. So pulse is just one method of assessing somebody is what is their constitution, but you can get an idea of what's happening even if you don't use pulse diagnosis. So if there are many people who have had great success with consulting Ayurvedic doctors online based in another country.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nidhi. I think you've enlightened all of us today. I've definitely learned so much that I didn't know. I think we will, anyone who wants to stay now, to hear about the practitioners and the books, please stay on. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. And I really hope you enjoyed the session and you learned something new and you might try something new this spring.